What's up, Star City Blood Bowl League, and welcome to the Season 9 playoff preview. It's round one of the knockout playoffs. Everybody's in the contention for the championship, so anybody can win it. I wanted to do this video just to kind of get a little bit of hype built up for the knockout playoffs. It's the first time we've ever done it, just wanting to see if this is something everybody enjoys, because we know that sometimes some teams take a little longer to get going with skills and to get to maybe their max potential. And so hopefully this allows some people to get a better feel for the races they're playing, and also get a chance to feel like they're competing, throughout the whole season. So with that being said, let's jump right in. The standings ended. We had the Hexoatl Hexers, the Squared Circle, each with 12 points. Then we also had the Caraburg Lancers and the Eldorado Dodgers, each with 12 points. So those were our top four teams point-wise going into the first round of the knockout playoffs. I'm kind of looking at the boards here. This is kind of how the board looks like right now. The Hexoatl Hexers play the Bone City Death Squad. Then we have the Sanitation Workers against the Erie Mazes. We got the North Lustrian Raiders against the Safari Sorcerers, and then Eldorado Dodgers against the Shadow Legion. And then in the other bracket, we've got Squared Circle against the Jurassic Prowlers, Half Pint Hellions against Scumdogs of the Universe, Chortling Chorfs against Camino Commandos, and the Caraburg Lancers against Cirque du Sucket. And so when this bracket is complete through the quarter, semifinals, and final, we will have a winner. So to win the championship, you have to win 1, 2, 3, and 4 games in order to win the championship. And so that's what we've got. It's 4 different rounds, and everybody's in contention. So let's just kind of start at the top and start with the first matchup. The Hexoatl Hexers, the Bone City Death Squad. I think this is number 1 against number 16 in the league. um, Hexoatl Hexers have been doing really well. I think they are actually, with the tiebreakers and stuff, the number 1 team in the league. They're scoring over 2 touchdowns a game, playing great defense, still causing injuries, resisting injuries. They're not fouling a lot, and that's okay. And then we have the Bone City Death Squad, who are on a bit of a losing streak. They've not even been able to score on average more than 0.3 touchdowns per game. Doing okay defensively, a little better defensively than offensively, but they've just failed to hurt people. Not even getting a half a casualty per game on average is pretty poor. They've been able to resist injuries on their own, no fouls really taken into account. So this is the Roland is more of a veteran coach of Slan, being the 10th ranked Slan coach in the U.S. versus Travis Pierce, who is newish Shambling Undead, struggling a little bit, 173rd rank coach. So looking at the two teams, Kazamundi is a block dodge sidestep catcher, and then we have Tenotech, which is also a block dodge sidestep catcher. There is one lineman missing next game, but even with all that, they're relatively healthy. 2 blitzers that are unskilled, a block lineman, wrestle lineman, block Croxagore. So missing some guard, which would be very, very helpful to the Slan game. 4 rerolls in the bucket. They got 11 players exactly, so playing a little bit shorthanded going into this last game, which may or may not affect them. 1370 team value. Bone City Death Squad are coming in. They'll have 10 plus a journeyman, so they're going to be sitting at I think 1035. So that gives them. Let me go back here. I want to say 240. 1370 minus 1035. 335,000 in inducements. They've got essentially two skilled up guard pieces, the mummy and the white blitzer. One mummy with multiple block, still missing a white blitzer, so they're down 1 block piece. Three ghouls, all unskilled. Some regen zombies. One's a little busted up. He's probably worth just dropping, to be honest. At this point, I would, and just picking up a journeyman that actually has AV9. Looking at inducements, what should they take? Looking at the stars, what did I say it was? It's like 235 maybe. Wilhelm would be pretty good. Not the claws aren't as useful, You probably could go with something with maybe, let's see, what would you take? A Bloodlust 2+ player, Hypnogaze might not be terrible. Movement 7, Agility 2+. The Hypnogaze is a 2+. Strength 4. I don't know, this Karina von Reitz or whatever, or oh no, I think you have to take Ivan the Death, the animal. That's who I would take. So Ivan the animal's got block, disturbing presence, which will help with handoffs and such. Juggernaut, regen, strip ball, tackle, and then dwarven scourge, which won't come in handy. But he's a white blitzer with a lot of good skills to take down some really high-powered um, slants. So taking Ivan the animal, um, maybe a mascot or something like that if you can do it, or a couple assistant coaches to see if you can't grab some rerolls. But it's going to be a tough one, I think, for the undead to face, being so heavily unskilled. Um, but Ivan the animal could make a difference in a game like this, I think. So with that, I'm going to say it's going to be 2-0 with the Hexers taking this one on, but I don't think this is an unwinnable game for the Bone City Death Squad. I think um, with enough practice, the right coaching, I think you can win this game. So 2-0. Moving on to the sanitation workers and the Erie Mazes. So Underworld against the Erie Mazes. Corn. Sanitation workers. Well, let me go through the teams a little bit better here. So pretty low team value for both these teams. I'll see if one of them is missing some players. Sanitation workers were on kind of a hot streak. They suffered a loss against the Karaberg Lancers, but they're scoring good with 1.7 offensively. Decent defense, at least comparatively to the Erie Mazes. The Snotlings are definitely slowing down teams. They're not hurting a lot of players, so they're going to probably be playing down in players by the end of the game. And that's part of this resistance thing as well. They've also not been hurting a ton. Not fouling a ton either. Clocking in 67th rank underworld coach in the U.S. We've got the Erie Mazes, coached by Dirt, and Dirt is not scoring a lot of touchdowns, but playing decent defense, hurting things, not getting hurt themselves, sitting at 114th ranked Corn coach. Let's just start there. Got a Bloodseeker, Block Laws, multi-block. That's going to stink missing this game. Still have a couple Block Frenzy pieces in place. Still low on money, but 3 Bloodseekers, 2 Gorngors, no Blood Spawn. So 11 players, not a lot of bench material available. Um, So 10, 20 Underworld Denizens aren't going to get a lot of inducements this time. That might be helpful. They're also missing Skulk Deathstreaker, who suffered a miss next game. That's a huge deal. So they've lost a little bit of ball carrying capacity, probably going to be carrying it most of the time on their Skaven Thrower. Um, and so with that, it's a little bit easier to take them down. Um, got their Rat Ogre who can select a skill now, so they'll probably maybe take something. Juggernaut would probably be a good choice. Um, we've got the Skaven Blitzer, probably needs guard. And then the thrower here probably needs dodge. Um, at least that's what I would be doing. So um, couple skills to get that probably closes the gap on inducements enough, or there isn't going to be many inducements available. But yeah, everything's looking pretty normal there, aside from missing their star gutter runner. Corn have a chance, like I said, they're missing their star bloodseeker, but things aren't super great skill wise across the board. It doesn't look like they can skill anything up. What do I think this will be? I think it'll be close. I'm going to say it's going to be 2-1 with the Underworld Denizens pulling this one out. I think just the offensive ability of the Corn isn't there, even with the offensive ability of the sanitation workers being hurt. I still think it's a game that they're going to end up pulling out and winning. But anything can happen if there's enough injuries caused or something like that. Corn may be able to navigate through. I think they're going to get tied up quite a bit by the Snotlings, which will be diving in, tagging up the ball carrier, getting sidestep pushed around, maybe even into some frenzy traps. So all the sidestep isn't great for Corn because they can quickly get out of position really fast, and then that makes it hard for them to protect their ball carrier. So if I was them, I would be trying to probably go after that blitzer as fast as possible. Um, but that's just me. So, like I said, 2-1 with the sanitation workers winning that one there. Next up, Northwestrian Raiders against the Safari Sorcerers. So, Safari Sorcerers have picked it up a little bit in the last bit of the season, getting a win and a draw. And then the Northwestern Raiders have been relatively consistent at grabbing wins, avoiding injury. As you can see, they've been able to hoard up over 380,000 gold by resisting their injuries. Two pretty evenly team valued teams. But looking at the Northwestern Raiders, almost 2 touchdowns per game, playing good defense, solid at decently hurting things, and then resisting being hurt. Total, this ends up Z is the 52nd ranked Amazon coach in the US. And then we've got the Safari Sorcerers, who are at 1040 team value. They've got a little bit money in the bank, scoring a little over 1 touchdown per game, being able to stop teams from scoring, not hurting really anyone. So I wouldn't count on them removing any players in this, but they've been able to avoid getting hurt themselves. So they're able to keep their numbers on the field, which should be good for them to play defense. And that ends up being that they're the 46th ranked high elf coach in the United States. So, looking at what's available. So, obviously, some block, dodge, sidestep's going to be all over the place. He's got 4 blodging players. One kick's going to be out of play. That'll help a little bit with the elves to avoid getting pinned back too quickly. I think it looks like they've skilled up everybody as they should. They will take on a journeyman for I think they're 50K. Yeah, so 1150. And then we've got here it's going to give them about 110K. Oh no, it's going to be quite a bit more. They need some players bad. Maybe the inducements will go to the Amazons. So this is 1040 plus they're 70 apiece, right? And they need 3, so 210, so 1250 minus 1150, so 100K inducements for the Raiders. What do they take? The Raiders probably should just take, I would say, a keg or something. Acorn's not really worth it. They're not really going to get fouled. I'd probably take a keg, maybe a they got 3 rerolls. I'd probably take a mascot, a keg, and a part-time assistant coach if it was me. So that's what I'd spend 100K on. Looking here, they've got quite a bit of block dodge themselves. Got a player that's ready to skill up. Probably should do that. I wouldn't wait any further. I know they're maybe hanging up, but you could get block on this player here. You should do it. This one here probably should get. They got 4 rerolls, so they don't need a leader. Probably take. I'd probably take block on the thrower here as well, or possibly dodge. Probably dodge. And then, like I said, that'll add some team value, but I think it's well worth it. And that'll give them a little bit more survivability, maneuverability around. So what do I think will happen? I think the Safari Sorcerers are going to be able to score in this one. I want to say this one's going to be, let's see, they scored one. I'm actually going to go with more of an upset here, I think. I think this one is an upset if I go with the Safari Sorcerers winning this one 2-1 is what I actually think is going to happen. I think the High Elves are going to be able to pull it out. I think they've been able to get enough skills to be very hard to shut down. And then with their 2+ dodging, they're just some decent dice rolls away from pulling this out. So 2-1 is what I'm going with the Sorcerers winning this one. Eldorado Dodgers, Shadow Legion, Shadow Legion picking up their first win in quite some time. The El Dorado Dodgers have been on a winning streak for a number of weeks. And kind of looking at it, 1310 team value against 1280, so very closely related. Over 2 touchdowns per game for the Dodgers, not even quite 1 touchdown per game for the Shadow Legion. Defensively, Dodgers are playing well. Um, they're pretty similar. Brutality, very similar, evenly matched. Resistance, the Dodgers have been able to resist a little bit more injuring, probably at the result of the Vampires hurting themselves. And then there's a little bit of fouling, but not too much. Maurice comes in as the 40th rank Amazon coach in the United States, whereas Mark is the 71st Vampire coach in the United States. So, looking at these teams, lots of skills, lots of blodge. Um, so one-on-one straight up, it's going to be hard to knock these players down without tackle, without hypno-gazing them first. But hypno-gaze can make all the difference in this. If you come up to a block dodge defensive, Jaguar warrior and shut off all their skills, suddenly that's pretty easy to hurt them. You can claw them, which is nice. So the Vargeist, I think if there is a Vargeist on the other team, will probably be looking to target those blockers with claws, especially if they can get hypno-gazed and turned off first. Um, we've got Count Volkov is doing very well. Block, wrestle, running pass, not so helpful, but maybe bind somebody out at some point. Um, some of the players look like they've started to get some skills. Some randoms are meh, but maybe still decent. Um, Dirty player +1. Is it worth it to foul with the vampire? Probably not. Um, Especially not your thrower, which seems to be one of the better players on the team with the 2+ bloodlust, 2+ hypnogaze. Probably not worth a good foul, but I don't know. If you got four, 5 assists on something and you knew for sure you're pretty much going to break the armor, it's probably going to guarantee a KO, but probably not worth taking. Not a lot of pro going around, but it's 3 rerolls, which is a little less than what you'd hope for. The Vargeist is there, which will be causing some damage. So Vargeist, 4 different vampires, I think. Yep, and 8 linemen, which is should be enough to keep you going. They did have a pretty big win against Corn recently, but have been doing pretty poorly at finding the end zone over the last several weeks. Um, what do I think will happen here? I think unless there's a lot of injuries that happen up front and the hypnogaze comes into play, you can hypno, knock something down, use your block ability to take advantage of something not having block or dodge, and you end up getting some lucky injury rolls. This one will be hard for the vampires to come back from. I think also what you could just hope to rely on is the 3+ dodge with reroll. If they fail enough of those 1 in 9s, you might be able to get an advantage. I'm going to say this one is going to be 2-0. I think I'm going to say 2-1. I think it's going to be 2-1. I think that the Legion will be able to get in, but I think it's going to be not enough. And so I'm going to have the Dodgers moving on past the Shadow Legion this round. All right, next up, Stunty on Stunty squared circle against the Stunty Lizardmen of the Jurassic Prowlers, or Pro Wrestlers is what I like to call them. Um, both these coaches, experienced coaches. Um, the Snotlings are going to be at a little bit of more of an advantage because they're going to have to take on some inducements, whereas the just expensive nature of Lizardman Stunty is going to make it difficult. Um, the Stunty Lizardmen started off kind of hot in the season. They looked like they were going to be a big contender, but these last 4 rounds, they've really fallen off, losing 4 straight, whereas the Snotlings have been able to keep pace, winning the last 3. Both of them scoring identically throughout this game, but the Snotlings are able to play a little bit better defense and hurt a little more of their opponents. I've never seen a negative score for resistance, but obviously the Snotlings lose quite a few players, and that's probably why they're at a negative. Um, the Jurassic Prowlers have been able to resist injury quite a bit, but that's because it looks like just their dodge has been able to keep them away. I'm sure they're keeping their distance. but the Snotlings are able to foul quite considerably, at least 3 fouls per game. So they're going to remove some stunty players, may even hurt them significantly. So even if the Jurassic Prowlers pull this one out, I'd imagine they're going to be pretty hurt, and they'll be relying very heavily on their Croxagore. Alex is the 10th ranked Snotling player in the U.S., whereas Fluff is the 160th ranked Lizardman. That obviously includes all Lizardmen, not just stunty Lizardmen. Looking at some skills, strong arm troll, it's good for some one turns. Got a pile driver, pump wagon, which stacks really well with dirty player. I'm actually ready to skill up again. What do you give it? Strength skills. I mean, I guess you could give it guard or stand. It's got stand firm already. Um, it's got juggernaut, dirty player. I guess you give it guard. That's the only thing I could think of that you would give it. Got a stilty runner that's got some good skills. Jump up, sure feet. Been able to score 6 touchdowns. Fun Hopper is doing fine with diving tackle. That'll be good to shut down some of the 3+ dodging that the stunty lizardman will attempt to do. And then we've got a sneaky get snotling, which you need. 3 rerolls, lots of money in the bank. So looking at this, what is it? 1260 minus 745. So 515,000 gold. You're going to take riotous rookies. You'll probably take one bribe at least, I would imagine. And then you probably could take someone like Morg or Hackflim or Ripper Varog. Does anything... I mean, Morgan Thorg would be so good because at best they're probably 3-die uphilling you, hoping to wrestle you down. You're not going to let the Croxagore hit you. I would almost forego the bribes just to take Morg, but maybe Morg without a lot of help isn't great. Ripper would be good too. Um, a good option to get you another strength guy in there to bully up on Alpha, who's going to have obviously prehensile diving tackle arm bars, so failing a dodge away from Alpha will be painful. 3 wrestle players, so that's kind of what we're stuck with right now. And there could be a general skill taken here. I doubt they take it. And so 12 players, 150K in the bank. Pretty decent team. What do I think will happen? I think it's going to be 2-1 with the squared circle taking this over the Jurassic Prowlers. Unless the Prowlers just get real crazy about cage diving and just jumping in trying to pop balls out and get lucky, I think it's going to be a tough one for them, with how expensive their team is. But they are fast, so it's been very forgiving for mispositioning, and it'll allow them to stay in front of the Snotlings. So maybe things slow down enough that they can pull something out, but I'm going to say 2-1 Snotlings over the Lizardmen. Next up, Half Pint Hellions, Chaos Halflings, pretty much, against Scumdogs of the Universe, Chaos Renegades. The Hellions have been playing good offensively, 1.4 touchdowns per game, good defense, hurting fairly regularly for a stunty team, I think. That's very good. Resisting injury, which is also good for a stunty team, and then getting their fair share of fouls in. This brings Bob in as the 18th ranked Halfling coach in the U.S. We've got Scumdogs of the Universe is Shad's team. Shad is an experienced Chaos Renegade coach, scoring 1 touchdown per game, playing good defense, hurting players, resisting injury, doing occasional foul from time to time, bringing them in as the 21st rank Chaos Renegade player. So looking at the Renegades, we got a block guard, Minotaur, which is great. On a blitz, being strength 6 is going to be really great against trees. Then you got a guard ogre. So with the guard ogre plus the blitzing of the Minotaur, you'll be able to start knocking trees down. That'll be really bad for the trees on the halflings. You are missing an orc. I don't know if you got money. You don't have money for another orc. That's unfortunate. But it would have been nice to have that in there. Still got a dirty player alignment. I'm sure it'll jump on something from time to time. Block Dodge Dark Elf, which is great. It is available for a random skill. Probably worth just attempting the random at this point. Um, I don't know what you would take. Maybe a mutation and just hope you get a good one. It's probably what I would do. There's a lot of bad ones out there too, so maybe it's not worth it. But just for the fun, and you've already got block dodge, so what more could you want aside from, sidestep or an agility skill? Probably agility is where it's really at, but you know, fun times. Um, Looking at what we've got here, does have a goblin, does have a skaven, so not like a overly strong team. Do they have the thrower? They do have the thrower, which is kind of an odd choice because typically I would say you probably don't want that. You'd probably just rather have a 50k lineman save 25k of um, team value. 760. Oh, I didn't look. How many rerolls do you got here on the Renegades? Is that going to come into play? 3 rerolls. So chances are they'll at least have one, even if there's a chef that gets induced. But we're talking. Oh, I done forgot. 1150 minus 760. 390k in inducements. That's enough for Morgan Thorg. Is Morg the right call? Hmm, hmm. I almost wonder if Griff is a better call with Cindy. But that's all your money, right? So using 100k for the chef, but you need 290, that's maybe not enough then. 290 would just barely get you Griff. Do you want Deep Root? Hmm. That's a tough choice. I'd almost be tempted to take Deep Root, just because the Mighty Blow +2, he's got block, he doesn't have take root, and then he's strength 7, so he's going to be bullying around the two big guys on the Renegades. But Griff is so good, you can't really go wrong with Griff. But you got some decent catchers. Like I said, maybe they're not needed to, this one probably should take Sure Feet. Um, is what I would probably do with sprint and grab Sure Feet, and then it's movement 9. Um, Two hefties. I would probably consider picking up. Oh, gosh, you can't, and then still get Griff unless you're going to try with Carla. Maybe that's the move. I would maybe consider picking up a couple bench halflings, take Carla and Cindy or something like that, plus the chef if it works out. I didn't do the math, but hopefully it would. Um, that may be just taking bargain Griff might be the main option to do. What do I think is going to happen? Oh man, halflings have fallen off a little bit. Started slow. I'm going to give this one to Bob. I'm going to say Bob's going to win it 2-1. On turn 16, he's going to walk in. Turn 16. Not as like a throw teammate, but just walking in. So 2-1, halflings over the Renegades. Then we got Chortling Chorfs, Camino Commandos. Both of these teams I really don't want to face in either way. Lots of money for the Camino Commandos, playing good offensively, 1.7 touchdowns per game, playing good defense, hurting players, resisting injury, does a foul occasionally. That makes Gerald the 107th ranked human coach in the United States. And then we've got the Chortling Chorfs. Not finding the end zone quite as much, at least as the Camino Commandos are, but they're playing excellent defense, which will go well. Hurting players almost identically, resisting injury, fouling almost identically. So pretty evenly matched. Gerard is the 86th ranked Chaos Dwarf coach in the land. There is a Dwarf blocker with guard that is missing next game, as well as an enslaved Minotaur. Those both hurt significantly, so they're going to be picking up a journeyman for 40k. which bumps them to 1170 against the 1220 of the humans, which are dirt cheap, lots of skills. So let's see, how many guard do you have here? So 1, 2, 3 guard. That's going to be great. Block bull is going to be good. Sure hands block. Hobgoblin does awesome random block skill available there. So it paid off. Um, so close to a good skill on this dwarf blocker, you probably don't want to random it, but what could you get? Do you take strength? Mm, multi-block would obviously be terrible. Stand firm would be nice. Guard is great. Juggernaut, not useful. Yeah, I think you're sit on that one. I don't think you random that one. Now, whether you random this bull, maybe. Maybe random this bull. I would consider that. Anyways, all right, looking at this, Camino Commando. So Pongkrell has got guard, which is great, but he's hurt, which is not great, as they probably will end up getting hurt at this game. Um, Blitzers look pretty good. Lots of Mighty Blow, which will be needed if you're going to hope to hurt any of the 10 plus armor. Ideally, probably they're blitzing Hobgoblins to try and wreck those off the field. That's usually the best way to take down Chaos Dwarves, is to remove the Hobgoblins just so you get some numbers, and then you work on the speed that you have. The blodging here is usually useful, but you've got tackle against you and quite a bit of it, so you want to be careful probably to not leave your catchers out to get blitzed at any point by a dwarf blocker. Otherwise, they're probably going to wind up on the ground and hurt, possibly even dirty player. I think they had a dirty player. Dirty player stomped on. Yeah, dirty player hobgoblin stomped on. So um, there's that. There is a block lineman there, which is great. Not a lot of subs, so that's going to be maybe where the difference comes in. Both of these teams are really low on players, so it's all going to come down to who's armor 8 plus or 9 plus is going to hold up the best. And so, what do I think the Twirling Chorf should do? Obviously, take advantage of guard stacking with Dirty Player, right? So if you can surround stuff with guard, get those assists, cancel out your opponent's assists, and then pretty much guarantee you break armor and be able to use the Dirty Player on the injury roll rather than the armor break. That's going to be huge for getting maximum use out of the Hobgoblin here. What do I think is going to happen here? I think it's just going to be tough for the Chorfs to contain this. They need to make sure they stay spread out, don't get run around more or less. And just, I would obviously be careful looking for the humans to just play more of an Elfie game where they're trying to just run down the field and screen it off and hope that's enough. So with that, I think it's going to be 2-1, the Commandos over the Chorfs. But I could see this going either way. I could see the Chorfs being able to pull this out. I'm going to guess the Commandos for now. 2-1. Last but not least, we have the Karaberg Lancers against Cirque du Sucket. Karaberg Lancers doing okay offensively, 1.6 touchdowns per game, playing great defense at 3.3. Not hurting a lot of players. They've not been able to get a lot of casualties, but they've been able to resist injury pretty well, and they do foul from time to time. Cirque du Sucket, not been able to find the end zone quite as well, but they are playing great defense, hurting players more frequently than the Karaberg Lancers are, and obviously resisting injury just like Nurgle do. And Dirty Player, not a lot of foul opportunities, but they're in there. My team's coming in as the 11th rank Imperial Nobility coach in the U.S. Rachel will be playing as the 110th rank Nurgle in the U.S. So looking at the two teams, the Karaberg Lancers have a little bit of skills, not too many, but guard, ogre, block dodge, sure hands, sidestep, noble blitzer, one unskilled blitzer. He was replaced after the other one that was skilled up died. CJ Stubbs has tackle. Do have Mac Jensen, who's got guard. Jacob Kelly's got block. And so in total, we got 11 players, 115K May buy a 12th player, 12th lineman. I guess I just haven't decided yet what to do. Um, so probably going to buy a 12th player. It's probably going to be a lineman. I don't think I'm going to buy a thrower. It's too late. I don't see them being that useful. Um, in the grand scheme of things, even though they're one more armor better, it's just and a little bit better agility. Their team value is just so high. So 1290, 1355, rot spawn with guard, which is great. Block prehensile tail, also great. I don't do a lot of dodging though at agility 4 plus on linemen, so at least you can guarantee I'm probably not moving anywhere. So it's almost like having two tentacles, I guess. Block monstrous mouth. Monstrous mouth was kind of a dud. That kind of sucks. Um, but we've got guard, we've got brawler, um, which is great for a bloater. Very long legs, not so great for a Pestigore, at least not against my team. And then Pestigore with sure hands, big hand, which is awesome because then you can just go in there and pick it up on a 1 in 9 in as many tackle zones as you can. So that's a really great skill. Unskilled Pestigore, 3 rerolls, 12 players. So 1355 against 1290. So if I pick up a journeyman, there'd be no inducements, or not a journeyman, a lineman, there'd be no inducements. If I don't, I could get a keg or something like that. But I'm going to say I'm probably going to end up getting a lineman and there just won't be any inducements available. What do I think will happen in this one? I'm going to say this one's going to be 2-1. I think the Lancers are just going to be able to do well. There isn't a lot of skills here, assuming they don't fail too many of the foul appearances that um, are overly powerful. Now, granted, it is going to be hard to get 2-die blocks on the strength 4s and 5s because I obviously don't have any of those. Um, so I think what I'm just planning to do is be able to use stand firm, wrestle to keep players down, remove 3 movement while they have to stand up, um, and move away and try and keep the Nurgle from being able to move offensively and just wait for an opening to take something in. Um, that's I guess my game plan. So I'm going to say 2-1 here with the Lancers moving on. What do I think will then happen? So I had the sanitation workers against the Hexoidal Hexers. I'm going to give that one to the Hexers. Then, do I give that to the Hexers? Have they played before? I feel like I should look at that. My first thought was to give it to the Hexers, but they don't play. They're in different divisions. That's right. Um, I would say Hexers beat the sanitation workers. I then got Saffrey Sorcerers against the Dodgers. The Dodgers move on. The Dodgers move on to the championship. Got Squared Circle moving on. I had the Half Pint Hellions moving on. Gonna have Squared Circle move on from there. Twirling Chorus, I had the Camino Commandos, Karaberg Lancers. I think the Lancers will move on. And then I think Squared Circle against the Karaberg Lancers. I think it's going to be the Lancers. I think it's going to be the Lancers and the El Dorado Dodgers in the championship is my guess, and I think it's going to be the El Dorado Dodgers will win the Star City Blood Bowl League Season 9 championship. Score of 3-1 is my guess. That's a quick guess. I'll do a video hopefully with each of these rounds, so I can actually see if I remember my predictions. But that's just what I would say if I was going to just make a wild guess today. But yeah, looking at some of the honors, right? So season ended. Usually we lock in the honors. So Patrick Mahomes Award does go to Sir Nick Ford, which is 165K for a single player. We've got best, I say most valued big guys, Blothar the Berserker, most valued stunty at 100K. There's 3 of those from, I think they have wrestles, they have doubles. Most experienced, that's the Spike Magazine Award typically. That's Skulk Death Shrieker, 35 SPP. Cody's had 14, we'll call them all-around points, most versatile points. Most scorer right now is Skulk Death Shrieker with 10 touchdowns. Most beast, Blothar the Berserkers had 7 injuries caused. Most injured, Ascoatl has been hurt 4 times and so it has Rapper, the Underworld Snotling. MVP goes to Cole Black, who's grabbed up 5 MVPs. Most dirty player right now, Kumzak, is had 12 fouls committed. And then 3 players have tied for one, what do you call it? One interception apiece. Most valued team right now, Hexoatl Hexers, 1370. 2 teams have 6 dedicated fans. Most experienced team, the Camino Commandos have accumulated 106 SPP this season, which is great. Most versatile, 68 points. Most scorer, the Eldorado Dodgers have scored 15 touchdowns this year, 14 for the Hexoatl Hexers, and the Dodgers are playing great defense, only allowing 4 touchdowns in the games they've played so far. I think 7 games. Most beasts, 17 casualties by the Erie Mazes, so they're hurting lots of players spread all around their team. Most injured is, no surprise, the Snotlings with 32. Most killers, so the North Lustrian Raiders have killed 3 players, and Cirque du Sucket have also killed 3 players. Most dirty playing teams are 2 stunty teams, 22 for Squared Circle, 13 for the Half Pint Hellions. Most sent off, obviously, is because of the secret weapons of the Squared Circle have accumulated a lot of sent offs. Completion wise, Camino Commandos are passing well, sanitation workers not far behind. And the best stunty team is Squared Circle with an 86% win-draw ratio. I don't know where the Lizardmen fall, but I think it's below them at least because they didn't have as many points. And the Hexoatl Hexers and Eldorado Dodgers are both leading right now with 5 consecutive wins. Whereas the Bone City Death Squad and Shadow Legion are in the consecutive loss category, with the Bone City Death Squad losing all 7 of their matches this season. So that's it for this video. I know it was a long one, but hopefully it was a fun one. I tried to go in a little bit more depth this time than I typically do. So hopefully it's enjoyable. Hopefully people sit down and watch it. But it was a great time. I enjoyed making it. Thank you for everybody who played in the regular season. Good luck in the playoffs, and I hope everybody ends up making it to the final and winning, even though I know it will only be one of you. But yep, I think with that, good luck in the first round of the Octo final, and everybody have a good time. Thanks.